foot in the door technique. It's the quiet, unassuming start to a very big yes. A persuasion strategy so subtle, its target often becomes its most willing participant. The principle is deceptively simple. You start not with your real request, but with something so small, so trivial, that it's almost impossible to refuse. A quick survey, a tiny window sticker, a single click. Once you've agreed to that initial harmless step, a powerful psychological mechanism kicks in. The need for consistency. Our brains hate to contradict themselves. By saying yes once, you have subtly redefined your own self-perception. You are no longer just a random person. You are now the kind of person who engages, who helps, who cares about this particular issue. It's like taking a single step into fresh snow. That first step is easy, almost effortless. But it creates a path, making the next step in the same direction feel natural, almost inevitable. The classic study is a perfect illustration. Researchers asked homeowners to display a tiny 3-inch sign in their window promoting safe driving. Most said yes. Weeks later, a different team returned with the real request. Would they install a massive, poorly designed drive carefully billboard on their front lawn? For a control group who hadn't been asked to place the tiny sign, the answer was a resounding no. But for the group who had already committed, they were dramatically more likely to say yes to the eyesore. They were already on the path. Saying no would mean admitting their first act of civic duty was a fluke. You see this constantly. It's the online petition that, once signed, is immediately followed by a request for a donation. It's the salesperson who asks if you have just a moment to answer one quick question, knowing that moment is the only inch they need. They aren't forcing the door open. They are simply knocking and then letting your own internal desire to be a consistent, agreeable person do all the heavy lifting. That first yes is the most important one because it's not just an answer. It is the turning of a key in a lock inside your own mind, a lock you didn't even know was there. And once it's unlocked, the door swings open with surprising ease. The scarcity principle. It's that urgent internal alarm that blares when you see the words, "only 2 left in stock." It's the deep-seated fear that if you don't act now, the opportunity will vanish forever. At its core, this principle operates on a simple, brutal human truth. We assign more value to things that are less available. It's not about logic, it's about instinct. Imagine you're offered 2 identical, delicious cookies. One is pulled from a jar overflowing with hundreds just like it. The other is presented as the very last one from a special batch. Which cookie seems more desirable? Which one do you instinctively feel tastes better? For almost everyone, it's the lone cookie. Its solitude, its rarity, gives it an aura of importance. This isn't a flaw in your thinking. It's a feature of your evolutionary wiring. For our ancestors, scarcity signaled something critical. A rare source of food or a well-hidden shelter had to be secured immediately. This ancient mental shortcut still runs deep within our subconscious, whispering that what is rare must be valuable. And modern commerce has weaponized this instinct with surgical precision. The countdown timer on a shopping website isn't just telling you the time, it's manufacturing a deadline for your desire. The limited edition sneaker drop isn't just about a unique design. It's about creating an exclusive club of owners, turning a product into a status symbol. When an airline website flashes, only 3 seats left at this price, it's not just providing information. It's directly triggering your loss aversion, the psychological fact that the pain of losing something feels twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. You're no longer just buying a plane ticket, you're desperately trying to avoid the pain of missing out on a deal. This extends far beyond just buying things. Think of exclusive access to a social group, or secret information, available only to a select few. The principle works by framing your decision not as a choice, but as a contest against time and other people. It hijacks your rational brain and puts your emotional, reactive brain in the driver's seat. It makes you feel that if you hesitate, you lose. And this is where it becomes a masterful tool of manipulation. It's not just about convincing you to want something. It's about convincing you that you're about to lose it forever. It bypasses the question of, do I even need this? And replaces it with the panicked, primal command. I must have it. Now. Reciprocity. It's the invisible thread of social debt. the unspoken IOU that gets written every time someone does something for you. It's a rule so deeply embedded in our social software that we barely notice it running in the background. Think about the last time someone gave you a free sample at a store. Even if you didn't love it, did you feel a small, nagging pressure to buy the full product? Or when a coworker buys you a coffee, you almost instinctively say, I'll get the next one. That feeling, that gentle pull to even the score, is reciprocity. It's the glue that helps build relationships and foster cooperation. In a healthy exchange, it's a beautiful, balanced dance. But this fundamental rule of human interaction has a shadow, because any predictable human response can be engineered. A skilled manipulator sees reciprocity not as a social glue, but as a lever, a key they can use to unlock your compliance. They understand that by giving you something first, something you may not have even wanted or asked for, they can create a sense of indebtedness that you will feel compelled to repay. This is the logic behind the unsolicited gift. The salesperson who offers you a free guide only to ask for your time and money later. They're not being generous, they're making an investment in your obligation. They are banking on the discomfort you'll feel holding their gift without giving something back. It's a subtle trap, baited with kindness. An even more sophisticated version is the rejection then retreat technique. Here, the manipulator makes a large, unreasonable request they know you'll refuse. When you say no, they seem to back down, offering a much smaller, more reasonable request. But this was their true goal all along. By conceding from their initial position, they've made you feel as though they've done you a favor. And now, that invisible thread appears. You feel a subconscious pressure to reciprocate their concession by agreeing to the smaller request. You're not agreeing because you want to, you're agreeing because you feel you owe it to them. The trick is recognizing that the initial gift or concession wasn't a genuine act of kindness. It was just the first move in a game you didn't know you were playing. And the only way to win is to realize you don't have to play at all. Social proof. Ever walked past two restaurants, one bustling with people and the other completely empty, and felt an almost magnetic pull toward the busy one? You know nothing about the food or the service at either, yet you instinctively trust the crowd. That's social proof, one of the most powerful and primitive levers of influence. It's the simple, deeply embedded idea that if other people are doing it, it must be the right thing to do. Think of it as a cognitive shortcut. Your brain is lazy, it wants to conserve energy. Instead of painstakingly researching every single decision, you outsource the work. You let the behavior of the masses become your guide. It's like your brain is saying, well, thousands of people left a 5-star review for this air fryer, so it must be good. Decision made. This is why testimonials, bestseller labels, and follower accounts are not just marketing fluff. They are weapons of persuasion, targeting a fundamental vulnerability in your decision-making process. This instinct is ancient. For our ancestors, straying from the tribe was a death sentence. Sticking with the group, eating the berries they ate, and running from the predators they ran from meant survival. Conformity was safety. The problem is, that same survival instinct is now being exploited to sell you everything from sneakers to political ideologies. It's why you see influencers holding a product, not just to show you the product, but to show you that they, a person with status and a huge following, approve of it. The implicit message is, millions of people trust my judgment, so you should too. It's why sitcoms used canned laughter. It wasn't just filler, it was a cue, a command telling your brain, this is funny. Laugh now. The crowd is laughing, so you should laugh too. And here's the truly unsettling part. Social proof can be easily manufactured. Fake reviews can be bought. Follower counts can be inflated. Testimonials can be carefully curated. The crowd, you're trusting to make your decisions for you, might not even be real. It's a ghost in the machine, a phantom tribe guiding your hand to the add to cart button, and you're often a willing, unconscious participant. You're not just following the herd, you're following a carefully constructed illusion of one. Authority bias. It's the reason you'll blindly follow your GPS into a lake, and it's the reason a man in a lab coat can convince you to do the unthinkable. This bias is a deeply programmed shortcut in your mind, a simple rule that says, if a legitimate authority figure says so, it must be true. Your brain sees a uniform, a title, or a fancy degree. and essentially outsources its critical thinking. It's like seeing a verified checkmark next to a person and automatically trusting everything they post without ever checking the source yourself. It saves energy, but the cost can be immense. The most chilling demonstration of this is the infamous Milgram experiment. Ordinary people were brought into a lab and told by a stern looking scientist to deliver increasingly powerful electric shocks to another person in a different room. They could hear the person screaming, begging them to stop, and eventually falling silent. Yet, with the calm, persistent instruction of the authority figure in the lab coat, a shocking 2/3 of participants continued all the way to the maximum, potentially lethal voltage. They weren't monsters. They were simply obeying. The authority of the situation completely overrode their own moral compass. You see this manipulation everywhere, just in softer forms. It's the actor wearing a doctor's coat to sell you toothpaste. It's the financial guru with a best-selling book whose advice might be completely irrelevant to your life. It's the CEO who proposes a flawed strategy, and an entire boardroom of smart people nods in agreement, silencing their own doubts because, well, he's the CEO. This bias operates on a subconscious level, a quiet deference to the perceived expert. It preys on our desire for certainty and our respect for order and hierarchy. So, the next time you feel an immediate, unquestioning urge to agree with someone simply because of their position or title, pause. Remember that the lab coat doesn't make the science, the title doesn't make the idea sound, and true authority is earned through reason and evidence, not just a uniform. Your own judgment is more powerful than you've been led to believe. The liking principle. It's the simple, almost primal truth that we are dramatically more likely to say yes to people we like. Think about it. A stranger asks for a favor and your guard goes up. A close friend asks for that same favor and you're already looking for ways to help. This isn't just a social nicety, it's a powerful cognitive shortcut, a heuristic hardwired into our brains to trust the familiar. And because it's a shortcut, it can be expertly manipulated. So, what manufactures this liking? It's not random chemistry. There are specific triggers. One of the most potent is similarity. We like people who are like us. A skilled persuader will subtly mirror your posture, your speech patterns, your stated interests. They'll find common ground, whether it's a shared hometown or a love for the same obscure band. It's a subconscious handshake, a signal to your brain that says, this person is part of my tribe. They are safe. You feel a sense of rapport, a connection that feels entirely genuine, but was in fact constructed piece by piece. Then there are second climates. We are absolute suckers for flattery. It's like a direct injection of goodwill. A salesperson might say, you have excellent taste. That's our most sophisticated model. Even if a part of your brain recognizes the tactic, another, more powerful part, basks in the warmth of the praise. The person giving the compliment is now associated with that positive feeling, and your defenses begin to soften. But perhaps the most insidious trigger is association. Our brains are lazy, they love to connect dots, even when there's no real line. This is why advertisers pay millions for a celebrity to hold their product. You don't associate the soda with its ingredients, you associate it with the charm and success of the actor. The positive qualities bleed over. The reverse is also true. We instinctively dislike the person who brings us bad news, even though they didn't cause it. They become mentally linked to the negativity. The liking principle weaponizes our fundamental need for connection. It's the reason the classic Tupperware party was such a genius business model. You weren't buying plastic containers from a salesperson. You were buying them from your friend, in her living room, surrounded by other people you knew. The request to buy something was wrapped in the powerful, disarming warmth of a pre-existing relationship. And that's the key. The principle works by making you feel like you're not dealing with a persuader but a friend. And we rarely say no to our friends. Flattery. Ingratiation. Think of it as a social Trojan horse. It arrives at the gates of your mind looking like a beautiful gift, a compliment, an expression of admiration. But hidden inside is an agenda, a desire to influence your behavior for a specific gain. And it is devastatingly effective because it hacks a fundamental part of your psychology, the principle of liking. We are all fundamentally wired to like people who appear to like us. When someone praises your intelligence, your taste, or your work, they aren't just giving you a compliment, they're sending a powerful signal. I see you. I value you. We are on the same team. This triggers a cognitive shortcut. Your brain, so eager for that hit of validation, wants to reciprocate the positive feeling. It becomes incredibly difficult to dislike, distrust, or say no to someone who makes you feel so good about yourself. Your guard simply melts away. The skilled manipulator has an entire toolkit for this. There's the direct approach, what psychologists call other enhancement. Simple, overt praise. That was a genius idea, but it gets far more subtle. There's opinion conformity, where they meticulously mirror your beliefs and attitudes. Suddenly, they love the same obscure movies you do, or they arrive at the exact same political conclusion you just did, framing it as a testament to your brilliant logic. They create an illusion of a deep, instant connection, making you feel seen and understood on a profound level. So, how do you spot the Trojan horse before it's inside your walls? You have to look for the pattern, the transaction. Is the praise wildly disproportionate to the situation? Does a significant request immediately follow a sudden waterfall of compliments? It's like a magician's trick. The flattery is the misdirection, the grand gesture with one hand, while the other hand prepares the real move. The praise is designed to soften you up, to lower your defenses and make you more agreeable for the ask that's inevitably coming next. But here is the truly insidious part. Even when you consciously recognize it, even when a little voice in your head says, "This feels a bit much," it can still work. The emotional rush of being validated often overpowers the rational whisper of skepticism. Your ego is a hungry beast, and flattery is its favorite meal. The manipulator knows this. They know that even if you see the strings, a part of you might still want to dance because the music they're playing sounds an awful lot like your favorite song. The bandwagon effect. It's the quiet, invisible current that pulls you towards the crowd, often without you even realizing you're swimming. It's the simple, powerful idea that the more people adopt a belief, an idea, a style, or a behavior, the more likely you are to adopt it too, regardless of the underlying evidence or your own initial feelings. Think of it like a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts small, just a few flakes of an idea. But as it rolls, it gathers more snow, more people, growing in size and momentum. Soon, its sheer mass makes it almost impossible for new snow in its path to do anything but join in. We are the snow. Our brains are wired for this. It's a cognitive shortcut, a heuristic called social proof. If so many others are doing it, our mind concludes, it must be the right, or at least the safest, thing to do. This is an echo from our deep tribal past, where straying from the group could mean exile or death. Safety in numbers isn't just a saying, it's a deeply embedded survival instinct. You've felt its pull 1,000 times, even if you didn't name it. You see a restaurant with a long line snaking out the door, and you instantly assume the food must be incredible. You hesitate to be the first person on an empty dance floor, but once a few brave souls start, the floor floods with people. It's why a book with a bestseller sticker seems more appealing, why a YouTube video with millions of views feels more compelling than one with a few hundred. It is the engine behind every viral trend, every fashion fad, and every stock market bubble. But this fundamental human instinct can be, and is, easily manipulated. Marketers weaponize it constantly. Limited edition items that create a frenzy, customer favorite tags, and glowing testimonials are all designed to trigger your bandwagon impulse. They aren't just selling you a product, they're selling you inclusion in a popular and discerning group. In the political arena, it's even more potent. Rallies are staged to look massive. Favorable poll numbers are endlessly highlighted, and a narrative of inevitable victory is crafted, all to convince undecided voters to jump onto the winning side. It bypasses your critical thinking by appealing directly to your need to belong. So, the next time you feel an irresistible urge to join the crowd, take a quiet moment. Ask yourself, am I being pulled by the value of the idea itself, or just by the weight of the snowball? The halo effect. It's the reason you instinctively assume the attractive person across the room is also funny, kind, and intelligent. It's a powerful cognitive glitch, a mental shortcut where your brain takes one overwhelmingly positive trait and lets it shine a golden halos over everything else about that person, product, or idea, blinding you to the rest. Think of it like a movie poster. The lead actor's face is front and center, perfectly lit, charismatic, heroic. Their image is so compelling that you barely notice the blurry, generic background or the tiny print at the bottom hinting at a weak plot. You've already decided it's going to be a great movie. That's the halo effect. Your brain fixates on one shining quality: physical attractiveness, confidence, a degree from a prestigious university, and that single bright spot positively distorts your entire perception, smoothing over any potential flaws or red flags. This isn't an accident, it's the bedrock of modern marketing and persuasion. Brands build entire empires on it. You see a sleek, minimalist laptop, and your brain instantly assumes the software inside is just as elegant and the performance is flawless. Advertisers pay beloved celebrities millions to endorse products they know nothing about. Why? Because the positive halo from their fame and charisma transfers directly onto that car, that insurance policy, that bottle of soda. Your deep-seated positive feelings for the person become your new positive feelings for the product. It's a seamless, almost invisible transfer of trust, happening entirely in your subconscious. It dictates our social world, too. In a courtroom, a more attractive defendant is statistically more likely to receive a lighter sentence. In a job interview, the candidate who is articulate and charismatic is immediately perceived as more competent, even if their resume is objectively weaker than the nervous, less polished applicant. And this bias has a sinister twin: the horn effect. See one negative trait, a stutter, an unprofessional email, an awkward handshake, and your brain casts a dark shadow. Suddenly, you suspect they're incompetent, untrustworthy, or unintelligent in all other areas too. One perceived flaw poisons the entire well of your judgment. The halo effect is one of the most powerful, silent manipulators of your perception. It operates beneath your conscious awareness, shaping who you trust, what you buy, and who you vote for. It's the ghost in your decision-making machine, constantly nudging you to judge a book, not just by its cover, but by the glossy, professionally shot photo of the author on the back, convincing you the story inside must be just as perfect. Commitment and consistency. It's our deep-seated, almost obsessive psychological need to be, and to appear, consistent with what we have already done. Once we make a choice or take a stand, we encounter powerful internal and external pressures to behave consistently with that commitment. Think of your decisions like laying down stones to build a path. The first stone you place is a small, easy commitment. But once it's down, the most logical next step is to place another stone right after it, and another after that. It's so much easier to keep building in a straight line than to second-guess the direction of the entire path. Your brain loves this shortcut. It saves energy. But this efficiency is also a gaping vulnerability. This is the engine behind the classic foot-in-the-door technique. A manipulator knows it's hard to get you to agree to a huge request out of the blue. So they don't. They start small. Absurdly small. They ask you to sign a simple petition for a cause you vaguely support, to answer a single survey question, to accept a free flower on the street. You agree because why wouldn't you? It's a tiny, harmless commitment. But the hook is in. The first stone has been laid. A week later, they return. Since you showed you care about community safety by signing that petition, would you be willing to put this large, rather unattractive "drive safely" sign on your front lawn for a month? Now you're trapped. To say no would be inconsistent with the person you just declared yourself to be, a concerned, community-minded citizen. Your own self-image is now being used as a lever against you. This isn't just about appearances. The most insidious part is how it changes you from the inside. When you perform an action, especially a public one, your identity begins to shift to align with it. That small initial commitment wasn't just an action, it was a statement about who you are. The manipulator didn't just get you to do something, they got you to become someone. Someone who is far more likely to say yes the next time and the time after that. The scary part isn't the sign on your lawn. It's that you might genuinely start to believe putting it there was your idea all along. The commitment doesn't just change your behavior, it starts to rewrite your identity, one tiny yes at a time. Guilt tripping. It's a form of emotional blackmail where the currency is your conscience. Unlike a direct demand, which you can easily identify and refuse, a guilt trip is far more insidious. It's a carefully constructed trap designed to ensnare your empathy and turn it against you. Think of it as an invisible debt. The manipulator is the creditor, and they've decided you owe them something: your time, your choices, your compliance. They hand you an emotional invoice for a service you never ordered, and the payment is your feeling of obligation. The tactic works by skillfully reframing a situation. Their wants are disguised as your responsibilities. Their disappointment is presented as your moral failure. They don't say, "You can't go out with your friends." They say, "Fine, go have fun. I guess I'll just stay here by myself again." The unspoken message is devastatingly clear. Your happiness is directly causing their suffering. You'll hear its echo in the classic, "After all I've done for you," which turns past acts of kindness into a present day weapon. Or the conditional, "If you really cared about me, you would," which puts your affection on trial, with their demand as the only evidence of your innocence. The goal is always the same: to control your behavior by making you feel that choosing your own needs is an act of cruelty. This is so profoundly effective because it targets the best parts of you: your desire to be a good son, a loyal friend, a loving partner. It hijacks your moral compass. Over time, this constant emotional pressure erodes your personal boundaries. You start to second guess your own decisions, preemptively trying to manage the other person's feelings to avoid the inevitable wave of guilt. The relationship stops being a partnership and becomes a performance, where you're constantly auditioning for the role of the good person. And that is the core deception of the guilt trip. It's a masterclass in manipulation that convinces you that personal desires are your moral duties, leaving you trapped not by chains but by your own sense of right and wrong. Playing the victim. It's the art of turning a situation into a stage, and oneself into the perpetual, blameless protagonist of a tragedy they secretly direct. It's not just a plea for sympathy, it's a sophisticated form of psychological jujitsu, using the weight of your own empathy against you to gain control. At its surface, it looks like genuine suffering. But look closer. This is the strategic performance of suffering. The person playing the victim systematically reframes every conflict, every mistake, every inconvenience as a personal attack. Your reasonable request for them to do their share becomes an indictment of how you never appreciate them. Their forgotten promise morphs into a heartbreaking story about how overwhelmed and unsupported they are. Responsibility is like a toxic substance they believe they are uniquely allergic to, so you must be the one to handle it. Think of it as a shield and a sword forged from the same metal of perceived injustice. The victimhood is their shield, deflecting any and all accountability. How can you be angry at them? Look at how much they're hurting. Nothing is ever their fault. But it's also a sharp, subtle sword. It's designed to pierce your conscience, to make you feel guilty for having needs, for setting boundaries, for even existing in a way that isn't solely focused on their comfort. You start questioning your own reality. Was I too harsh? Am I being selfish? Suddenly, you're the villain in their meticulously crafted narrative. You find yourself apologizing, comforting, and catering to the very person who caused the initial problem. This dynamic is a slow poison. It creates a kind of emotional fog where you can no longer trust your own perceptions. You find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly editing your words and actions to avoid triggering another performance. Deeper down the iceberg, this isn't just a tactic, it becomes a core identity. The world is a hostile place, and they are its primary target. They collect injustices, both real and imagined, like merit badges of suffering. And the true hidden tragedy is that in casting themselves as the helpless victim, they surrender their own agency. They trap themselves in a prison of their own making, forever the lead in a sorrowful play where the only exit is the one they refuse to see. The door of personal responsibility, the silent treatment. It's not an absence of words, it's the powerful presence of a wall. A sudden, invisible, and chillingly solid barrier erected where a connection used to be. You can feel the temperature drop in the room. You can see the person, but they look right through you, their gaze a void. It's a deliberate, calculated choice to make you a ghost in your own life, haunting the hallways of a relationship that has suddenly gone cold. This isn't someone just needing a moment to cool down. That's a healthy pause, usually communicated with something like, "I need some space to think." The silent treatment is the weaponization of that space. It is a punitive silence, an aggressive act disguised as passivity. It's a tool of control designed to put you in an emotional checkmate. The silence itself is the message, and the message is a cruel riddle. You have done something terribly wrong, and you will be punished with my complete and utter absence until you crawl back, figure it out, and fix it. It forces you into a frantic, desperate guessing game, replaying every recent interaction, every word, every glance, searching for the invisible tripwire you unknowingly crossed. This tactic is so profoundly effective because it hijacks a primal human fear, ostracism, and abandonment. Social connection is a fundamental need hardwired into our DNA for survival. When someone you care about unilaterally severs that connection, it triggers a deep, visceral panic. Your brain can register this specific kind of emotional pain in the same regions that process physical injury. It's a slow burn agony. You start to doubt your own perception, your own sanity. You feel anxious, insignificant, and desperate to restore the connection, often at any cost. The manipulator is holding your emotional oxygen hostage, and they know you will eventually do anything just to be able to breathe again. By refusing to engage, they create a stark power imbalance where they are the judge, jury, and executioner, and you don't even know the charges against you. They force you to do all the emotional labor. You are the one who has to break the deafening silence, to apologize, to plead for a return to normalcy. When you finally do, you've essentially admitted guilt for a crime you can't identify and have handed them the victory. They've successfully conditioned you to avoid whatever behavior, real or imagined, triggered their silent disapproval. So never confuse this with the need for space. Taking space is a bridge to a future conversation. The silent treatment is a locked door with the key thrown away. It is a refusal to resolve, a way of saying, your existence, your feelings, don't matter enough for me to even acknowledge you. It's the ultimate passive-aggressive maneuver, a quiet declaration of emotional war. Moving the goalposts. It's the subtle, maddening art of changing the rules in the middle of the game. A manipulation tactic designed to ensure that you can never, ever win. Imagine you're running a race. You can see the finish line. You pour every last ounce of energy into your final sprint, your lungs burning, your legs aching. But just as you're about to break the tape, you watch as someone walks onto the track, picks up the finish line, and moves it another 100 yards down the field. That feeling of exhaustion mixed with profound confusion? That is the essence of this tactic. In the real world, it's quieter, but far more damaging. It's the manager who says, just get this project done by Friday and you're on track for that promotion. You pull all-nighters, you deliver it Thursday afternoon, and their response is, this is good, but I was really hoping you'd also include a 5-year forecast. We can't move forward without that. The goalpost just slid 20 yards away. It happens in relationships too. If you were just more emotionally available, everything would be perfect. So you open up, you share your vulnerabilities, you make a conscious effort. And the new critique becomes, well, now you seem a bit needy. I really need a partner who is strong and independent. The target you were so desperately trying to hit has vanished, replaced by its polar opposite. And here's the truly insidious part. Moving the goalposts isn't about having high standards, it's about having no standards. It's about creating a horizon you can never reach. The purpose is to keep you perpetually striving, perpetually seeking an approval that will never be granted, and perpetually feeling like you are the one who is failing. It preys on your desire to succeed and to please, turning your own ambition into a weapon against you. Over time, it erodes your self-esteem, making you doubt your competence, your memory, and your very perception of reality. The manipulator maintains absolute control by being the sole judge in a game you're destined to lose. They get to define success on a whim, ensuring you're always in their debt, always trying harder to please them. Recognizing this pattern is the first critical step. The only way to win a game where the rules are constantly changing is to understand that you're being played, and to simply stop running their race. Love bombing. It's the emotional equivalent of a flash flood. One moment, your world is normal, and the next, you are swept away by a tidal wave of affection so intense, so all-consuming, that you can barely breathe. It's not just a crush, it's a conquest. Imagine meeting someone new. Within days, maybe even hours, your phone is a constant stream of their attention. They're sending you paragraphs about how they've never met anyone like you, how you've changed their entire world. They call you their soulmate, their twin flame. They're planning your future together before they even know your middle name. You are put on the highest pedestal imaginable, told you are perfect, flawless, a dream come true. This isn't just flattery, it's a carefully executed campaign. It's designed to overwhelm your rational mind, to short circuit your natural defenses by flooding your system with dopamine. You feel seen, adored, and utterly special. Who wouldn't want to believe it? But this overwhelming affection is a strategic investment. Think of it like an emotional Ponzi scheme. The manipulator showers you with impossibly high returns, love, praise, grand gestures to get you to invest everything you have: your trust, your vulnerability, your time. You become dependent on that high, that constant validation. You start to believe this person is the only one who will ever see you this way. They have effectively created a powerful addiction, with themselves as the sole supplier. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the floodwaters recede. The constant texts slow to a trickle. The praise is replaced with subtle criticism. The adoration turns into cold indifference or sudden anger. You're left standing in the mud, confused, disoriented, and desperately trying to figure out what you did wrong to make the love stop. The pedestal they built for you is kicked out from under you. Now you'll do anything to get back on it, to feel that intoxicating rush again. And that's the trap. The love bombing wasn't the relationship, it was the audition. It was the glittering, beautiful bait hiding the hook. It feels like the beginning of the perfect love story, but in reality, it's the meticulously crafted opening chapter for a story of control. Gaslighting. It's not just lying, it's the deliberate act of rewriting someone else's reality. Imagine you have a map of your life, one you've drawn from your own experiences and memories. The gaslighter doesn't just argue about the destination, they sneak in at night and subtly redraw the roads, erase landmarks, and change the names of the towns. When you look at it the next day and say, "Wait, that's not right," they look at you with deep concern and say, "What are you talking about? It's always been this way. Maybe you're just not remembering correctly." This is the core of the tactic. It's a slow, insidious erosion of your certainty. It begins with small things. "I never said that." "You're being too sensitive." That's not what happened." These aren't just disagreements, they are targeted strikes against your perception. Each one is a small seed of doubt planted in the soil of your mind. Over time, these seeds sprout into a thicket of confusion, choking out your own intuition. You start to question everything. Did they really promise to call? Or did you just imagine it? Was their comment a cruel joke? Or are you just overreacting like they always say you do? The gaslighter becomes the sole arbiter of truth. Your feelings aren't just dismissed, they're presented as evidence of your own instability. Your memory isn't just challenged, it's framed as faulty and unreliable. They might deny an event ever happened, even with proof right in front of them. They will weaponize the love and trust you have for them, making you believe that your flawed perception is what's really hurting the relationship. You find yourself constantly apologizing, not because you're wrong, but because you're exhausted from fighting for a reality that only you seem to inhabit. The ultimate goal isn't to win a single argument. It's to dismantle your ability to trust yourself entirely. It's a power play designed to make you dependent on their version of events, their approval, their reality. They create a psychological fog so dense that you can no longer see your own hand in front of your face. And in that fog, they are your only guide, leading you wherever they please. The most frightening part is how you internalize it. The voice of the gaslighter becomes a permanent echo in your head, constantly second-guessing your every move. It's a prison where the bars are forged from your own self-doubt, and the warden is the one who convinces you that you locked the door yourself. Circular reasoning. Imagine trying to prove a dictionary is trustworthy by only using definitions from that exact same dictionary. You look up the word reliable, and it says, "See trustworthy." You look up trustworthy, and it says, "See reliable." You haven't actually proven anything. You've just taken a long walk in a very small circle. That is the essence of this fallacy. It's an argument that eats its own tail. The conclusion is secretly smuggled into the premise, creating a closed loop of logic that goes absolutely nowhere, yet feels like it has made a profound point. It works because it mimics the structure of a real argument. It has a premise, and it has a conclusion. But when you look closer, you realize they're the same thing, just wearing different clothes. Think of the statement, Our company's new policy is the right thing to do because it is the ethical choice. The words right thing to do and ethical choice are functionally identical. No external evidence, no data, no moral framework has been offered. The argument is simply that the policy is ethical because it's ethical, and this is where it becomes a subtle but powerful tool of manipulation. When someone traps you in a circle of their own logic, they create a fortress that is impossible to attack from the outside. If a person in authority tells you, "You must follow my orders because I am the one in charge," they are offering their authority as the sole proof of their authority. There is no entry point for debate. To even question the premise is to defy the conclusion they've already declared as fact. You can feel it when you're caught in one. It's a frustrating, dizzying sensation, like you're trying to climb a ladder made of smoke. You keep reaching for a solid rung, a piece of external proof, a verifiable fact, but your hand passes right through. You're left with nothing but the assertion, repeated back to you in a slightly different form, masquerading as support. The goal isn't to convince you with evidence, it's to exhaust you into submission. It's a statement of faith presented as a logical proof, an intellectual dead end designed to shut down inquiry by making the question itself seem absurd. It's a perfect, self-contained, and utterly empty world. The straw man argument. Imagine getting into a debate, but instead of engaging with your opponent's actual position, you secretly build a caricature of it. A flimsy, misshapen scarecrow stuffed with straw. And then, in a grand display of intellectual force, you knock that scarecrow to the ground. You look victorious, but you never fought a real person. You just beat up a doll you created. This is one of the most common and deceptive fallacies you will ever encounter. It's the art of misrepresentation. You take someone's argument, you twist it, exaggerate it, or simplify it into something absurdly easy to attack. Let's say a friend argues, "I think we should invest more in renewable energy sources like solar and wind to combat climate change." A classic straw man response would sound like this. "So you just want to shut down all our power plants tomorrow, plunge the country into darkness and destroy the economy? That's an insane position to take. See what just happened?" The original, nuanced point about investing more in renewables was completely ignored. It was replaced with a distorted, extreme position, shutting down all power plants tomorrow. This new argument is a fabrication, a straw man designed to be easily defeated. It's a bait and switch of logic. The manipulator sidesteps the difficult task of debating energy policy and instead gets to righteously tear down a ridiculous idea that no one ever actually proposed. The true psychological genius of the straw man isn't to convince the person you're arguing with. They know what they actually said. Its power is in manipulating the audience. To anyone not paying close attention, it looks like the manipulator has just debunked a terrible, extreme idea, making them seem rational and their opponent seem foolish. It preys on our cognitive laziness. It's far easier to agree that plunging the country into darkness is a bad idea than it is to think critically about the complexities of energy transition. It reframes the entire conversation onto the manipulator's chosen battlefield, a field where they are the only real combatant. Once you learn to spot it, you'll see it everywhere in politics, in advertising, even in your own family arguments. You'll see someone build the scarecrow, and you'll realize the most powerful response isn't to defend the scarecrow they built. It's to point out that it's made of straw, and ask them to finally face the real argument. False dichotomy. You're either with us or you're against us. It's one of the oldest, most powerful lines of psychological control in human history, and it works by presenting a world that doesn't exist. This fallacy, also known as black and white thinking, is a trap for your mind. It's the art of presenting only two opposing options as the only two options, when in reality, a spectrum of possibilities lies between them. Imagine you're at a fork in the road. The manipulator points and says, "You can only go left or right. Choose." But they're deliberately hiding the fact that you could also turn back, forge a new path through the trees, or simply sit down and wait. They aren't offering a choice. They are engineering a conclusion. The power of the false dichotomy is its brutal simplicity. Our brains are wired to conserve energy, and choosing between A and B is far easier than analyzing the complex nuance of options A through Z. This tactic exploits that mental shortcut. It manufactures urgency and polarizes the situation, forcing you into a corner. In politics, it's you either support this policy entirely or you want our country to fail. In a personal relationship, it can sound like, if you don't agree with me on this, you must not really love me. In advertising, it's the classic, you can either buy our revolutionary product and succeed, or stick with your old ways and be left behind. Notice the pattern. One option is painted as clearly desirable and the other as catastrophic. There is no middle ground, no room for discussion, no space for a third way. They are framing the debate. They are shrinking your world down to a single loaded decision. The moment you feel that pressure, that sense of being forced to pick a side in a two-sided war, pause. The antidote is a simple but profound question. What's the third option? By asking this, you break the frame. You reintroduce the complexity and color into a picture someone else has tried to paint in black and white. Because the real world is almost never a simple switch that's either on or off. It's a dimmer with an infinite number of shades in between. The false dichotomy isn't just a logical error, it's a cage for your thoughts, and someone else is holding the key. Projection. Imagine your mind is a movie projector, and inside there's a reel of film containing all the things you can't stand about yourself, your insecurities, your anger, your hidden shames. Instead of watching that film on the screen of your own self-awareness, you turn the projector around and play it on the person standing in front of you. Suddenly, they are the ones who are insecure. They are the ones filled with irrational anger. You're just the innocent projectionist watching the show. This is the essence of psychological projection. It's a defense mechanism where you unconsciously take your own unacceptable qualities and attribute them to someone else. It's a way for the ego to protect itself, to offload the heavy baggage of its own flaws onto an unsuspecting porter. You can't handle the thought that you might be dishonest, so your mind finds it far easier to believe that you're surrounded by liars. You're not the one who is failing, it's your boss who is incompetent and setting you up for failure. The most classic, and perhaps most painful example, is the unfaithful partner who constantly accuses you of cheating. Every text you send, every late night at work, becomes evidence in their mind for a betrayal that is actually happening in their own life. They are creating a smokescreen. By forcing you onto the defensive, making you prove your loyalty over and over, they never have to face the person in the mirror. They make their own guilt your problem to solve. And this is where projection transforms from a simple defense into a potent tool of manipulation. It's a form of psychological attack. When someone projects onto you, they're not just misinterpreting your actions, they are actively rewriting reality. They create a narrative where they are the victim and you are the aggressor. You find yourself arguing against a phantom, defending yourself from accusations that feel bizarrely specific, almost like they're reading from a script. And in a way, they are. They're reading their own internal script, but they've cast you in their role. The emotional landscape becomes a hall of mirrors where you can no longer tell which reflection is real. The ultimate goal isn't just to avoid blame, it's to make you believe their distorted version of the world is the only one that exists. Thought terminating cliché. It's the conversational equivalent of a brick wall, painted to look like a doorway. It seems to offer a way forward, but all it does is stop you dead in your tracks. You've heard them 1,000 times. These are the phrases that sound profound but are actually designed to kill a thought before it can even draw its first breath. They're mental stop signs, dressed up as ancient wisdom. When you're questioning a difficult situation and someone says, "It is what it is," what does that even mean? It's a statement of fact, not an explanation. It's a dismissal. It tells you, stop thinking about this. Stop questioning. Accept. Or how about the classic, everything happens for a reason? This isn't an invitation to find the reason. It's a command to stop grieving or being angry and to passively accept a potentially awful outcome. Boys will be boys isn't an observation, it's an excuse, a shield against accountability. Think of a difficult conversation as a highway. You're driving towards a complex destination, a deeper understanding. A thought-terminating cliché is a sudden, unmarked off-ramp that leads directly into a conversational cul-de-sac. The road just ends. There's nowhere else to go. The journey is over, not because you arrived, but because the road simply disappeared. Why are they so effective? Because our brains crave simplicity. We are wired to seek cognitive ease. Wrestling with moral ambiguity, systemic problems, or personal pain is hard work. It burns mental calories. A cliche offers a neat, tidy little box to put the messy problem in so you don't have to deal with it anymore. It's a tranquilizer dart for a curious mind. And this is where it becomes a powerful tool of psychological manipulation. These phrases aren't just lazy, they are weapons of control. They are used, consciously or not, to shut down dissent, to invalidate your feelings, and to maintain an unjust status quo. When you try to challenge a system and are met with, "That's just how things are," you're not being engaged in a debate. You're being told to sit down and be quiet. It's a subtle way of saying, "Your thoughts are not welcome here." So, the next time you hear one of these conversation enders, recognize it for what it is. It's not a conclusion, it's a prompt. A prompt to ask the one question it's designed to prevent: but why? Because true understanding doesn't live in the easy answer. It lives in the uncomfortable, difficult, and necessary question that follows. Double bind. It's a psychological cage where the bars are made of words and the lock is your own confusion. Imagine someone telling you to be more spontaneous, but the moment you do something unplanned, they criticize you for not sticking to the schedule. You've just been put in a double bind. It's a no-win scenario, a communication paradox designed to make you feel trapped and question your own sanity. At its core, a double bind has a few key ingredients. First, you receive two conflicting messages. Often, one is spoken aloud, while the other is communicated through body language, tone, or context. "Of course, I want you to come to the party," a friend might say, but their voice is flat and their eyes won't meet yours. The second and most insidious ingredient is an unspoken rule. You cannot comment on the contradiction. You can't ask, "Why do you sound upset then?" To do so would be to break the social contract, to be accused of being difficult or oversensitive. You're trapped. You can't obey both commands, the verbal invitation and the nonverbal warning, and you can't point out that the game is rigged. Think of a parent who tells their child, "Come give me a hug," but then stiffens and recoils the moment the child makes contact. If the child hugs them, they feel the rejection. If they don't hug them, they are disobedient. No matter what they choose, they have failed the test. They learn that affection is a trap and that words cannot be trusted. The real message isn't, "I want a hug." The real message is, "You are in a position where you will always disappoint me." Over time, living within a double bind is corrosive. It's like trying to navigate a maze where the walls constantly shift. You lose faith in your own perception. You start to think, "Maybe I'm the one who's crazy. Maybe I'm reading into things." This self-doubt is the goal. It paralyzes you. You stop trying to solve the puzzle and simply accept the feeling of being perpetually wrong. It's not just a mixed message, it's a form of mental checkmate where your mind is the board and every move you make is a losing one. It's a quiet, elegant way to control someone by making them believe they can't even trust their own reality. Cognitive dissonance induction. It's the sound of a key turning in a lock you didn't know was there, deep inside your own mind. Imagine you're holding two powerful magnets that are desperately trying to repel each other, but you're being forced to push them together. That uncomfortable, buzzing tension in your hands? That's cognitive dissonance. It's the mental static that crackles to life when your actions and your beliefs are fundamentally out of sync. You believe you're a generous person, but you walk past someone in need. You believe you're health conscious, but you eat junk food. That internal friction is the dissonance. Now, the induction is the manipulation. It's when someone else intentionally creates that static inside you, knowing your brain will do almost anything to make it stop. They don't try to persuade you with logic, they make you persuade yourself. Think of the classic foot in the door technique. Someone asks you to perform a tiny, insignificant action that aligns with a certain value, say, signing a petition for safe driving. Of course you do, you're a safe driver. A week later, the same person returns and asks you to put a large, ugly "Drive Safely" sign on your perfect lawn. Now the magnets are pushing. Your action of signing the petition says, "I support this cause publicly." But your belief is, "I would never put a tacky sign on my lawn." The dissonance is deeply uncomfortable. To resolve it, the easiest path isn't to travel back in time and undo the signature, it's to change the belief. You might start to think, well, maybe the sign isn't so ugly, and it's for a good cause. It's the right thing to do. This is the core of the technique. It bypasses your rational defenses by targeting your behavior first. In more extreme cases, like in cults or high control relationships, this is the primary tool of conversion. It starts small. Give up one evening for a meeting. Make a small donation. Each action creates a little more dissonance with your old self. To ease that tension, you adjust your beliefs. I must really believe in this if I'm sacrificing for it. The more you invest and the more you act, the more you have to justify that investment by believing even harder. You build your own prison, one brick at a time, because it feels more comfortable than admitting the first brick was a mistake. It's a quiet internal surrender, so often mistaken for your own free will. Learned helplessness. Imagine a cage with the door wide open. Inside, a creature that could easily walk free simply sits there, resigned. It's not that it can't leave, it's that it no longer believes leaving is an option. This is the chilling essence of learned helplessness. It's not a weakness or a character flaw, it's a psychological scar carved by experience, a ghost of past failures that haunts your present choices. It begins when you're put in a situation where your actions have no effect on your outcome. Think of it like a video game where the controller is secretly broken. You press the button to jump, but your character falls into the pit. You try to run, but you stay frozen in place. Again and again, your efforts are met with consistent, unavoidable failure. After a while, something inside you shifts. You stop trying to predict the pattern. You stop trying to win. You just stop. Your brain learns a devastating lesson. Nothing I do matters. Now, imagine someone else is holding that broken controller. This is where learned helplessness becomes a master tool of manipulation. An abuser, a toxic boss, or a controlling partner can engineer this state in you. They create no-win scenarios. They move the goalposts. They might punish you for doing the very thing they praised you for yesterday. The chaos is the point. It's designed to sever the connection between your effort and your reward, to make you feel utterly powerless. And when you feel powerless, you become predictable. You become manageable. You might find yourself in a job where no amount of hard work ever leads to recognition, or a relationship where every attempt to communicate or solve a problem is met with a new, unpredictable conflict. You start to think, why even bother? That question isn't you giving up. It's a rational response to an irrational environment. You've learned that the game is rigged against you. The most insidious part is that even when a real opportunity to escape appears, when the cage door is finally left open, you might not even see it. The prison is no longer made of bars. It's made of the belief that none of your choices matter. And that mental cage is the hardest one of all to break free from. Dervil. It's the psychological judo flip of accountability, a three-step dance designed to leave you so disoriented, you forget who stepped on whose toes in the first place. It's a strategy so common you've almost certainly experienced it, even if you didn't have a name for it. It stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. Let's break it down. Imagine you confront someone about something they did that hurt you. A broken promise, a lie, a betrayal. The first move is denish. This isn't just a simple, no, I didn't. It's a profound denial of your reality. They'll say, that never happened, you're remembering it wrong, or the classic, you're being far too sensitive. The goal isn't just to plead innocence, it's to make you question your own mind, to plant a seed of doubt in your own perception of the truth. Just as you're reeling from this gaslighting, the script flips to the second act. The attack asks, the focus is no longer on their behavior, but on yours. Suddenly, your character, your sanity, your motives are on trial. Why are you always trying to start a fight? You have trust issues. You're just looking for a reason to be angry. They're not defending their actions anymore. They're prosecuting you for daring to bring them up. It's a vicious pivot from defense to offense, designed to put you on the back foot. And then comes the final, masterful twist. Reverse victim and offender. This is the checkmate. The person who caused the harm now claims to be the one who is truly wounded. They are the victim of your accusations, of your mistrust, of your cruelty. You'll hear things like, I can't believe you'd say that to me after everything I do for you. Or, now I feel like I have to walk on eggshells around you. You came seeking an apology, and you leave feeling like you're the one who needs to give one. Darvo is so effective because it weaponizes your own empathy against you. It's like being handed a map where all the street signs have been changed and then being blamed for getting lost. It isolates you in a fog of self doubt and guilt, making it nearly impossible to hold the offender accountable. It's not an argument, it's a tactic. It's a script they follow, and once you learn to see the pages, you can finally stop playing your part. Intermittent reinforcement. It's the psychological engine behind a slot machine, the reason you can't stop scrolling, and the invisible chain in most addictive relationships. It's obsession distilled into a formula. Imagine you're training a dog. If you give it a treat every single time it sits, it learns quickly. But if you stop, the behavior vanishes just as fast. Now, imagine you only give it a treat sometimes. Randomly. The dog has no idea when the reward is coming. Will it be this time? The next time? The uncertainty makes it desperate. It will sit and sit and sit, far more persistently than if the reward were guaranteed. That's you. That's all of us. Your brain isn't actually hooked on the reward itself. It's hooked on the anticipations of the reward. The dopamine rush is strongest not when you win, but when you think you might win. It's the neurological lottery ticket. This unpredictable pattern creates the most powerful craving known to psychology. It's a cognitive hook that, once set, is incredibly difficult to shake. And this is where it gets dark. This is the mechanism of a toxic, hot, and cold relationship. One day, a partner showers you with love and affection, the jackpot. The next, they're distant, critical, or absent. Your mind, addicted to the possibility of that jackpot, doesn't quit. Instead, you work harder. You try to figure out the pattern, to find the right combination of words and actions that will make the machine pay out again. You aren't in a relationship with a person anymore, you're in a relationship with a slot machine that dispenses affection. This is the design of your social media feed. Every pull to refresh is a lever pull. Most of the time, it's nothing. But sometimes, there's a rush of likes, a meaningful message, a fascinating video. And so you keep pulling. Intermittent reinforcement makes you believe that if you just try one more time, you'll get the prize. It builds a cage around you, but the bars aren't made of steel. They're made of hope. It feels like love, or loyalty, or ambition, but it is, at its core, a perfectly engineered trap. Fear, obligation, and guilt. It's the emotional smog that settles over a relationship, so thick you can't see the truth. It's not a loud, sudden storm, it's a quiet, creeping fog that distorts your perception, making you question your own mind, your own reality. It's an acronym, FOG, and it's one of the most powerful tools in the manipulator's handbook. Let's start with fear. This isn't always the fear of a raised voice or a slammed door. It's more insidious. It's the fear of rocking the boat, the fear of their disappointment, their anger, or their withdrawal of affection. It's that tight feeling in your chest when you're about to say no because you've been conditioned to anticipate the emotional fallout. You're not afraid of them exactly. You're afraid of the cold silence, the sighs of martyrdom, the subtle punishments they've taught you to expect. Then comes obligation. This is the sense that you cow them. It's a debt that was never formally agreed upon but is constantly implied. After everything I've done for you becomes the unspoken currency in every interaction. This isn't the healthy, reciprocal duty you feel towards people you love. It's a manufactured chain. It's designed to make you feel that their needs must always, under all circumstances, come before your own. You become responsible for their happiness, their stability, their very well-being. It's a job you never applied for, but are terrified to quit. And finally, guilt. Guilt is the enforcer. If fear is the wanting and obligation is the chain, guilt is the punishment for trying to break free. It's the voice that whispers, "You're being selfish," or "Look what you've done. You've upset them." A manipulator becomes a master architect of your guilt, framing your needs as personal attacks and your boundaries as acts of betrayal. They hand you the responsibility for their emotions, and it's a weight that feels impossible to set down. Together, these three create the fog. They work in a self-reinforcing loop. You fear their reaction, so you feel obligated to comply, and if you even think about defying that obligation, you're flooded with guilt. It's a disorienting haze that makes it nearly impossible to trust your own judgment. Your internal compass starts to spin wildly because every direction seems to lead back to their needs. Escaping the fog isn't about a single grand battle. It's about learning to recognize the subtle shift in the air, to see the haze for what it is, an external weather pattern, not the internal truth of who you are. Covert contracts. Have you ever done something nice for someone, expecting something specific in return, but you never actually said it out loud? You just assumed they'd know? That right there is the heart of a covert contract. It's a silent, invisible agreement that only one person is aware of. It's a deal you never signed, a debt you never agreed to owe. Think of it like this. You offer to drive a friend to the airport, a seemingly generous act. But in your mind, you've created a contract. The unspoken terms are that next month, when you need a ride, they will offer without you having to ask. It's a transaction disguised as a gift. When they inevitably fail to read your mind and don't offer, you feel betrayed, resentful, and maybe even a little self-righteous. After all I did for them, you might think, but they're completely baffled by your sudden coldness because they never knew they were part of a deal in the first place. This is where the manipulation sinks in. Covert contracts are a way to control another person's behavior without the risk of direct communication. Asking for what you want is vulnerable, it opens you up to rejection. A covert contract bypasses that. It sets the other person up for a test they can't possibly pass because they were never given the questions. And here's the insidious payoff for the person creating the contract. When the other person fails, the creator gets to feel like a victim, a martyr. It validates a narrative that they are the one who always gives, and others are just selfish takers. It's a powerful, self-serving story, but it's built on a foundation of unspoken expectations. So how do you spot one being used against you? It feels like a sudden shift in emotional weather. A kind gesture is followed by a weird sense of obligation. You might be accused of being ungrateful or selfish for a reason you can't quite grasp. You're being punished for breaking a rule you never knew existed. The defense against this is radical and simple. Make the implicit explicit. Drag the contract out of the shadows and into the light. You can say, "It feels like you're upset with me, and I'm wondering if it's because I didn't offer to help you move after you helped me last month." This forces the unspoken terms out into the open, where they can be negotiated or dismissed. Covert contracts thrive in silence and assumption. They can't survive direct conversation. Dog whistling. It's a political message pitched at a frequency only certain ears are meant to hear. Just like a real dog whistle emits a sound that humans can't perceive but sends canines into a frenzy, a political dog whistle uses coded language that sounds perfectly normal to most people, but carries a very specific, often controversial, secondary meaning for a targeted audience. It's the art of saying something without saying it. The power of this technique lies in its plausible deniability. Imagine a politician talking about the need to protect suburban lifestyles. To a general audience, this might sound like a benign statement about safety, schools, and property values. But to a specific subgroup, that phrase might be coded to tap into racial anxieties or fears about demographic change, all without using a single explicit word. If called out, the speaker can feign innocence. "What? I was just talking about zoning laws. You're the one making it about race." This tactic forces the accuser into the position of looking overly sensitive or paranoid, while the intended message is delivered successfully to the target group. Think of it like an inside joke at a massive party. Someone says a seemingly random phrase, and while most people just smile politely, you and a few friends burst out laughing because you know the secret backstory. The dog whistle creates that same sense of a special, knowing in-group. It tells the target audience, "I'm one of you. I get it." We don't have to say the quiet part out loud. This fosters a powerful sense of solidarity and shared identity, making the speaker seem authentic and trustworthy to those who can hear the whistle. It's an incredibly slippery form of manipulation because it operates in the shadows as subtext and implication. You're not fighting the words themselves, but the unspoken meaning you know is there. It's a way to inject divisive ideas into the mainstream conversation while maintaining a clean, respectable surface. And that's its true danger. It allows the message to hide in plain sight, resonating deeply with some while remaining completely invisible to others. It's a reminder that the most potent manipulation isn't always a shout, but a carefully calibrated whisper. Splitting. Also known as idealization and devaluation. Imagine someone building the most magnificent pedestal just for you. They carve your likeness in marble, telling you that you are flawless, a savior, the single most perfect human they have ever known. You are bathed in the brilliant, unconditional light of their adoration. This is idealization. It's a euphoric, intoxicating rush that feels like true love, like finally being seen for the amazing person you always hoped you were. They mirror your dreams, finish your sentences, and convince you that this connection is cosmically unique. You can do no wrong. Every word you speak is profound, every action is grace. Then you do something human. You disagree with them on a small point. You're 5 minutes late. You have a different opinion about a movie. The trigger is almost always trivial and significant, but to them, it's a crack in the marble. And instead of accepting the imperfection, they don't just kick the pedestal over, they shatter it with a sledgehammer. Suddenly, you are plunged into total, unforgivable darkness. This is devaluation. The switch has been flipped. You are no longer the hero of their story. You are the villain. You're not just flawed, you are fundamentally broken, selfish, manipulative, and cruel. All the good you ever did is erased, rewritten as a calculated, malicious act. The very same intensity they used to adore you is now weaponized to despise you. This isn't just a mood swing. Splitting is a psychological defense mechanism. It's the inability to hold two opposing thoughts or feelings at the same time. In their mind, you cannot be a good person who did a disappointing thing. The complexity is too much to handle. So, their brain simplifies it. If you did a bad thing, you are a bad person. All good or all bad. Saint or sinner. Angel or demon. There is no room for gray. Living on the receiving end of this is like experiencing constant psychological whiplash. You find yourself walking on eggshells, desperately trying to stay on that pedestal, knowing that one wrong step means a catastrophic fall. It's an exhausting, disorienting dance that makes you question your own reality, your own character, and your own sanity. You are forever standing on unstable ground, built by someone who can only see in black and white. Milieu control. It's the art of building an invisible cage around someone's mind, using their own environment as the bars. The word milieu simply means your surroundings, your social world, and to control it is to become the sole architect of someone else's reality. Think of it this way. Imagine your perception of the world is a single room. In a healthy life, you have countless windows and doors. You can look out, see different perspectives, walk out, and explore. Milieu control is when someone comes in, locks the door, and begins boarding up every single window. Then they start painting murals on the walls. At first, you know it's a mural, a fake, but after weeks, months, or years of seeing nothing else, that painted landscape starts to feel real. The manipulator controls everything that enters the room. The information, the conversations, the very air you breathe. This is achieved through a few key tactics. First, isolation. You're separated from friends, family, and any outside news sources that might contradict the new narrative. Your social circle shrinks until it only includes other people inside the controlled environment, all reinforcing the same message. Then comes information control. Books are forbidden, internet access is restricted, conversations are monitored. Every piece of data you receive is filtered, curated to support one specific worldview. Language itself is re-engineered. Special loaded phrases, what some call thought-terminating cliches, are introduced. Complex issues are flattened into simplistic, good versus evil slogans that short-circuit critical thought. If you can't form the words to question something, you can't fully form the thought. The result is a profound psychological dislocation. Your own judgment begins to feel unreliable. Your past memories, which don't align with the group's narrative, feel foggy and false. It's a form of gaslighting on an environmental scale. You're not just being told you're crazy, your entire world is being systematically rebuilt to prove it. The goal isn't just to influence you, it's to create a total reality, a hermetically sealed bubble where the manipulator's truth is the only truth that can exist because nothing else is allowed to enter. The cage isn't just around you anymore, you've helped build it inside your own head. Loaded language. Think of it as a verbal Trojan horse. A word or a phrase looks innocent enough on the surface, but it's smuggling an entire army of emotions, biases, and judgments right past your rational defenses. It's the art of making you feel a certain way about something before you've even had a chance to think about it. This isn't about lying, it's about seasoning. Imagine a chef who overseasons a dish so heavily you can no longer taste the actual ingredients. The facts are the ingredients, the loaded words are the intense, overpowering seasoning. The goal is to bypass your critical thinking and appeal directly to your gut, your emotions, your tribal instincts. It frames the entire debate before a single argument is even made. Consider the power of a single word choice. Is someone who exposes classified information a whistleblower or a traitor? A whistleblower sounds heroic, a servant of the people. A traitor is the ultimate villain. The act itself is the same, but the label dictates your entire emotional response. You see it everywhere. A politician doesn't just propose tax cuts, they offer tax relief. Relief from what? A burden? A sickness? The word itself implies that taxes are an affliction to be cured. On the other side, it might be framed as tax breaks for the super rich, immediately casting the policy as unfair and benefiting only an elite few. Is a government employee a public servant or a bureaucrat? One is noble, the other is a faceless, inefficient drone. Is a company streamlining its workforce or is it firing people? Streamlining sounds clean, efficient, modern. Firing is brutal and human. The defense against this is to become a translator. When you hear a loaded phrase, mentally strip it down to its most neutral, boring form. Take the emotion out of it. Instead of a job-killing regulation, just call it a regulation. Now, you can actually examine what it does. Instead of a greedy cash grab, call it a price increase. Now, you can analyze the market forces behind it. By neutralizing the language, you take back the power to form your own opinion. You're no longer letting someone else's emotional remote control do the thinking for you. You're seeing the horse for what it is, long before it gets inside the gates. Doctrine over person. It's the quiet, chilling principle that an idea is more sacred than the person who believes in it. Imagine a flawless architectural blueprint for a perfect world. The lines are clean, the logic is undeniable. Now, imagine that you are a living, breathing component in that grand design. But your unique personality, your private doubts, your messy human emotions, they're not seen as part of your humanity. They're seen as inconvenient smudges on that perfect paper, imperfections to be erased for the sake of the design. This is a profound form of psychological reengineering. It works by convincing you that your inherent worth is conditional. It's not about who you are, but how well you function within the system. Think of the doctrine as a piece of pristine, infallible software. You are merely the hardware it runs on. When you experience a moment of grief, a conflicting desire, or a flicker of critical thought, the system doesn't register a person in need of support. It detects a glitch, a bug that threatens the integrity of the program, and the prime directive is never to comfort the hardware, but to protect the software at all costs. You're told the problem isn't the program is you. So you begin the process of self-censorship. You learn to police your own mind, becoming your own warden. That nagging question in the back of your head? That's a compatibility error, and you'd better run a diagnostic. The empathy you feel for someone the group has labeled an outcast? That's a dangerous virus, a piece of malware that could corrupt your entire system. You are taught to fear your own intuition, to distrust your own heart. The manipulation creates an internal civil war, where your authentic self is positioned as the enemy. The only path to peace, you're told, is the complete surrender of your individuality. You must reformat your own hard drive to become a clean, perfect vessel for the idea. And from this internal surrender, external cruelty is born. Once a doctrine is elevated above a person, any action can be justified in its name. Shunning a child who questions the rules isn't a betrayal of love. It's a necessary firewall to protect the community's network. Silencing a dissenter isn't an act of oppression. It's debugging the system for the greater good. The doctrine becomes a powerful moral anesthetic, numbing the part of your conscience that recognizes cruelty for what it is. It allows good people to participate in terrible things, all while feeling righteous. It's the ultimate sleight of hand. convincing you that sacrificing another person's humanity, or even your own, is a noble and necessary act. Dispensing of existence. This isn't about making a person physically disappear, it's about making them psychologically vanish, a slow and deliberate erasure of the self, conducted by a master manipulator. Imagine your identity isn't a solid object, but a complex document written in ink. The manipulator's goal is to take a black marker and, line by line, redact you from your own story until all that's left is a version they've approved. It begins with isolation. They become the meticulous curator of your social world. That friend who always has your back? They're suddenly framed as a bad influence. Your family, who knows you best? They're painted as toxic manipulators themselves. The manipulator carefully snips the threads connecting you to your support system, not with a single violent cut, but with 1,000 subtle, poisonous whispers. Soon, they are your only point of reference, the sole arbiter of your reality. You've been placed in a psychological quarantine, and they are the only one with the key. Once you're isolated, the redaction of your mind begins. This is the core of the dispensing. Your memories are the first to go. An event you recall with perfect clarity? That never happened. You're misremembering again. A feeling you're certain of? You're not angry, you're just tired. You're always so dramatic. Your perceptions are systematically invalidated. Your internal compass is deliberately broken, spun around until you can no longer trust your own sense of direction. You begin to believe the black marker. You start to see your own history as a series of errors and delusions. Finally, the manipulator doesn't just leave behind a blank page, they rewrite it. Into the void left by your erased confidence and memories, they pour their own narrative. Your personality is redefined, your ambitions are replaced, your very thoughts are rescripted to better serve their needs. The original you, the one with independent thoughts, a solid past, and a network of loved ones, has been successfully dispensed with. You still walk and talk, but you are a ghost inhabiting your own body, a carefully edited manuscript whose true author has been forgotten. You exist only as a reflection in the manipulator's eyes, and they can turn the mirror away at any moment. Mystical manipulation. It's the unsettling practice of claiming a higher purpose or divine authority to justify your own selfish agenda. Imagine someone telling you that God, or the universe, or some cosmic destiny wants you to do something that, by sheer coincidence, benefits them immensely. This isn't about shared faith, it's about weaponizing the divine to bypass your consent and critical thinking. The manipulator positions themselves as a conduit, a special messenger for a higher power. They aren't just giving you their opinion, they're delivering a sacred truth. This creates a psychological trap that is incredibly difficult to escape. How can you argue with the message that supposedly comes from the heavens? To question the manipulator is to question God himself. To doubt their motives is to display a lack of faith. Your own intuition is recast as a spiritual weakness, a temptation to be overcome. Think of it like this. You and the manipulator are playing a game of chess. But they've convinced you that the inventor of chess is whispering every single one of their moves into their ear. If you question their strategy, you're not just questioning them. You're questioning the very spirit of the game. Your own moves feel small, profane, and foolish in the face of their divinely ordained plan. This tactic preys on our deepest human desires. The search for meaning, for purpose, for a sign that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. The mystical manipulator doesn't offer a suggestion. They offer certainty in a chaotic world. They offer you a starring role in a cosmic drama. The price of that role? Your autonomy. You'll hear phrases like, I had a vision that you were meant to help me, or, this isn't me asking, this is a test from the universe. Suddenly, a simple no is transformed into a spiritual failure. You're not just disappointing a person, you're defying fate itself. The truly insidious part is how it makes you feel special. Your sacrifice isn't an exploitation, it's a sacred duty. Your obedience isn't a weakness, it's a sign of your enlightenment. They take your deepest spiritual beliefs and turn them into a leash. In doing so, they don't just control your actions. They hijack the very compass you use to navigate your soul, and they point it directly and only at themselves. Demand for purity. It's the seductive promise of a clean slate. The idea that you can scrub away all the messy, complicated parts of yourself and the world, leaving only what is perfect, simple, and true. This manipulative tactic frames existence as a cosmic battle between the pure and the impure. The group, of course, holds the exclusive patent on purity. Their ideology is the shining standard, and everything outside of it, your past relationships, your previous beliefs, your personal ambitions, is branded as contaminated, dirty, and dangerous. This creates a sharp, brutalist worldview with no room for nuance. There is no gray, only the brilliant white of the cause and the absolute black of everything else. It's an alluringly simple map for a complicated world, but you quickly learn that living within this map requires constant, exhausting vigilance. Think of it like a meticulously clean, white room. The group tells you this room is the only safe place in the universe. But a single speck of dust, a fleeting doubt, a fond memory of an impure friend, a question you're too afraid to ask is not just a speck of dust. It is a catastrophic contamination. It proves you have failed, that you have brought the filth of the outside world into their sanctuary. The psychological weight of this is immense. You are pushed to strive for an unattainable state of perfection. Every normal human flaw is magnified into a moral failing, a sign of your inherent unworthiness. You become your own harshest critic, constantly scanning your thoughts and feelings for any trace of impurity. This generates a pervasive, unshakable feeling of guilt and shame. You start to believe that you are fundamentally broken and that your only hope for salvation lies in surrendering completely to the group that promises to wash you clean. This is the trap. A self-perpetuating cycle of confession and absolution. You feel the crushing weight of your perceived impurity, so you confess your thought crimes to the group. They grant you forgiveness, and for a fleeting moment, you feel the intoxicating relief of being pure again. But the standard is impossible, so the shame inevitably returns, driving you back to them, needier than before. Your identity dissolves, replaced by a desperate need for the group's approval. You are no longer a person, you are a vessel, forever striving to be worthy of what they pour into you, forever terrified of the stains you carry inside. Covert hypnosis or Ericksonian hypnosis. This isn't about swinging pocket watches or making someone cluck like a chicken. This is hypnosis disguised as a normal conversation. It's the art of speaking directly to someone's subconscious mind, while their conscious mind is busy just chatting. The technique was pioneered by Milton Erickson, a psychiatrist who was a master of psychological influence. He realized the conscious mind is a fortress, full of skepticism and resistance. So, he decided to stop attacking the fortress and instead find the secret tunnels underneath. How does it work? Think of it like mental judo. Instead of pushing against someone's beliefs, you go with them. This is called pacing and leading. First, you pace their reality. You subtly mirror their posture, their breathing, their language. You agree with their worldview. If they say, "I just can't seem to get motivated," you don't argue. You pace them. It's incredibly difficult when you can't find that motivation, isn't it? You've entered their world. You're on their side. Only then do you lead. You gently introduce a new idea, often wrapped in ambiguity. And I wonder what small, almost unnoticeable thing might happen that lets you know a change is beginning. You're not commanding them, you're sparking curiosity. The language itself is a key. Ericksonian hypnosis is famous for embedded commands. A sentence is constructed so a direct command is hidden inside it. For example, a therapist might say, "I don't know how soon you will feel a deep sense of calm." The conscious mind hears the whole sentence, but the subconscious picks up on the bolded part as a direct suggestion. And perhaps most powerfully, Erickson used stories and metaphors. He would tell a seemingly unrelated story about a stubborn plant that finally found a way to grow towards the sun. The conscious mind is entertained by the story, but the subconscious understands the real message. You too can find a way to overcome your obstacle. The story is a Trojan horse, smuggling a powerful idea past the conscious gatekeeper. This is why it's so deep on the manipulation iceberg. The person being influenced rarely, if ever, realizes it's happening. The suggestions feel like their own thoughts. The desire to change feels like it came from within. It's a conversation that can fundamentally reframe your reality, all without you ever knowing the frame was changed. Pacing and leading. It's the art of the invisible dance, a technique where you first match someone's rhythm, only to become the one who calls the tune. Think of it as psychological tuning. The first step, pacing, is all about establishing rapport on a subconscious level. It's about listening not just to what someone says, but to how they are. Imagine you're with someone who's closed off and skeptical. Arms crossed, short answers, leaning back. The amateur move is to try and win them over with a flood of enthusiasm. The master of pace does the opposite. You might subtly cross your own arms. You'd match their slower, deliberate speech patterns. You're not mocking them, you're calibrating. You are holding up a nonverbal mirror that reflects, I see you. I understand your state. I'm not a threat. In that moment, their primal brain registers a sense of familiarity and safety. You found their frequency. This isn't just about body language, it's about matching energy, vocabulary, even core beliefs. You are validating their reality, making them feel profoundly understood. And only once that deep, unspoken trust is built does the second step begin, pleading. This is the pivot from reflection to direction. After mirroring their closed posture, you might slowly, almost imperceptibly, uncross your arms and lean forward slightly. After matching their skeptical tone, you might introduce a hint of curiosity into your own voice. Because you've built that bridge of rapport, a fascinating thing happens. They follow. Their body language will often soften. Their tone will shift. You haven't commanded them to change. You've invited their subconscious to follow your lead into a more open state. This is the engine of influence, for good and for ill. A therapist uses it to guide a patient out of a panic attack. A skilled negotiator uses it to steer a tense room toward agreement. But in the hands of a manipulator, it's a devastatingly effective tool. They pace your fears and your dreams so perfectly that you feel completely seen. And once they have you in that trance of trust, they can lead you down a path you never would have chosen for yourself, all while you're convinced it was your idea to begin with. Metaprogramming, it is the subtle and powerful act of programming the programmer. Think of your mind for a moment as a sophisticated computer. Most of your life is spent running the software, the applications of your beliefs, the scripts of your daily routines, the pop-up windows of your emotional reactions. You open the work application, you run the social interaction script. But what if you could go deeper? What if you could access the core operating system itself? What if you could change the fundamental code that dictates how all the other programs are even allowed to run? That is the essence of metaprogramming. It's not about changing a single thought, like deciding you suddenly prefer tea over coffee. It's about altering the very framework you use to form work's preferences and make decisions in the first place. It's rewriting the source code for your own reality. When someone seeks to manipulate you on this profound level, they aren't just trying to sell you a product. They are attempting to install a whole new perceptual filter in your mind. They want to change the very way you process information itself. Imagine an organization or an ideology that doesn't just tell you, our leader is great. Instead, they slowly, methodically, replace your core definitions of foundational words like truth, family, and freedom. They provide a new language, a new internal logic. After a while, their conclusions don't just seem plausible, they seem like the only logical outcome, because the very system you use to evaluate logic has been quietly overwritten. They didn't just add a new file to your desktop, they installed an entirely new operating system, and you might not even remember what the old one looked like. This is done by challenging your foundational assumptions, the ones you so rarely think about, you don't even know you have them. They are the invisible axioms upon which your entire worldview is built. A skilled manipulator can find these load-bearing walls of your psyche and begin to gently chip away, replacing them with their own. They might reframe your past, recontextualize your identity, or introduce a pervasive, creeping doubt about your own judgment. But here is the crucial turning point. This powerful tool is not just for others to use on you. You can become your own metaprogrammer. You can learn to observe your own mental operating system as if from the outside. You can begin to ask, why do I believe this? What is the source code for this automatic emotional reaction? Is this algorithm I'm running still serving me? By becoming aware of the program, you gain the power to rewrite it. You can consciously uninstall the malware of limiting beliefs and install new, more empowering subroutines. You become the architect of your own cognition, designing the very structure of your thoughts one deliberate line of code at a time. The gray rock method. This isn't a counterattack, it's a counter-existence. It's the art of becoming so profoundly uninteresting that a manipulator has nothing to latch onto. Imagine a shoreline covered in countless gray stones. A predator looking for something vibrant, something that moves, will pass right over them. You become one of those stones, unremarkable, unresponsive, and in that you find your safety. Think of a toxic individual, particularly a narcissist, as a moth drawn to a flame. Your emotional reactions, your anger, your tears, your desperate explanations, that is the flame. They flutter around it, they feed on its energy, its light, its heat. They need it to feel significant. The gray rock method is you, consciously and deliberately snuffing out that flame. You don't argue with the moth. You don't try to reason with it. You simply remove the light. And without the stimulus, the moth loses interest and flutters away, in search of another fire to dance around. You are starving them of their psychological supply. It is a quiet, devastatingly effective form of emotional starvation. So, how do you become the stone? You give short, fact-based, and dispassionate answers. You don't offer opinions. You don't share your feelings. You don't ask them about theirs. When they try to provoke you with an insult, "I can't believe you did that, you're so incompetent," your response is a flat, "I finished the task." When they try to bait you with drama, everyone is saying you're trying to sabotage the project. You reply, "Okay," or "I see." Your conversations become about logistics, facts, the weather. You become a black hole for drama. They hurl their energy at you and it simply vanishes, giving them nothing back. This feels passive, but it is an intensely active strategy. It is psychological aikido, using their own force against them by providing no resistance. This isn't about being a doormat. A doormat is still useful to someone. You are becoming a feature of the landscape, as uninteresting and unengaging as a patch of concrete. It's a tool for disengagement, a shield for situations you cannot immediately leave, a toxic workplace, a co-parenting arrangement. You are not winning the fight. You are simply refusing to enter the ring until you are able to walk out of the arena for good. Manufactured consent. Think of it like a master magician. He doesn't force you to pick a card. He subtly guides your hand, making you believe the choice was entirely your own. That's the core of this concept, popularized by thinkers like Noam Chomsky. It's the theory that in a free society, control isn't maintained by force, but by shaping the very landscape of public opinion, by manufacturing your agreement. It's not about a shadowy group in a room deciding what you'll think. It's more like a system with built-in filters. Imagine you walk into a restaurant. The menu you're handed has chicken, fish, and a salad. You feel empowered, you get to choose your meal. But what you don't realize is that the restaurant owner decided long ago that steak, lobster, and pasta would never even be on the menu. You have the freedom to choose, but only from a pre-selected, carefully limited list of options. That menu is the mass media. The filters are the chefs deciding what makes it to the page. First, there's ownership. Major media outlets are massive corporations, and their primary goal, like any business, is profit. They aren't going to serve up stories that seriously threaten their corporate interests or the system they thrive in. Then there's advertising. The real customers of media aren't you, the audience. It's the advertisers paying for your attention. The news you get is the filler between the ads, and it can't afford to offend the people paying the bills. The result is a surprisingly narrow spectrum of acceptable debate. The media doesn't have to tell you what to think, it just has to tell you what to think about. It sets the boundaries. It decides which topics are on the menu and which are left in the kitchen. We can argue passionately about the chicken versus the fish, feeling engaged and informed, never once questioning why steak wasn't an option to begin with. And that's the genius of it. It creates the illusion of a vibrant, democratic debate, all while guiding the herd of public thought between invisible fences. You feel free. You feel informed. But your consent may have been the final product on an assembly line you never even knew existed. The Overton window shift. It's the invisible architecture of social change. The reason an idea that was once utterly unthinkable can become the law of the land in a single generation. It's one of the most powerful and patient forms of mass psychological manipulation. Imagine the full spectrum of all possible political ideas from one extreme to the other. Now picture a small window sliding along that spectrum. This is the Overton window. Only the ideas inside this window are considered acceptable, sensible, or even worth discussing in public. Anything outside the window? It's dismissed as radical, absurd, or simply unthinkable. The goal of a political movement, or any group trying to change society, isn't necessarily to win an argument today. The real, long term goal is to move the window. And how do you do that? Not by pushing a moderate idea. You do it by introducing a truly radical one, far outside the current window. At first, everyone scoffs. It's unthinkable. But its mere existence starts to pull at the edges of the conversation. The media discusses how crazy it is. Pundits debate its absurdity. And in doing so, they give it oxygen. This new, extreme idea has a fascinating psychological effect. It makes the previously radical ideas, the ones that were just outside the window, suddenly look more reasonable, more moderate. They've been dragged closer to the center by this new, even crazier anchor point. Suddenly, the radical position from yesterday becomes today's compromise. The window has shifted, and it was shifted not by convincing you, but by re engineering the landscape of what you're allowed to consider. You see this happen constantly. A fringe concept is introduced. It's mocked. Then it's debated. Then it's normalized as a legitimate, if controversial, viewpoint. Before you know it, it's a serious policy proposal. The window has slid right over it, and most people never even felt the breeze. It's a reminder that the most profound manipulation isn't about changing your mind on an issue. It's about changing the very issues you're allowed to have a mind about in the first place. Agenda. Setting theory. It's the elegant, powerful art of not telling you what to think, but rather, what to think about. It's one of the most foundational forms of mass manipulation, because it doesn't feel like manipulation at all. Imagine the world of information is a vast, dark stage with thousands of events happening at once. You can't possibly pay attention to everything. So, the media news outlets, social media algorithms, content creators hold a giant spotlight. They don't create the events on the stage, but they choose where to point the beam. And whatever is caught in that beam, a political scandal, a new health scare, a distant conflict, suddenly becomes the most important thing in your world. It achieves what researchers call salience. The story's importance is transferred from the media to you. Everything left in the darkness might as well not exist for the day. This is the first level of agenda setting. The media essentially hands you a menu of topics. You feel you have the freedom to choose your opinion on the issues, but you rarely stop to ask who wrote the menu in the first place. The conversation you have over dinner tonight will likely be about something that was placed in that spotlight this morning. But it gets deeper, sinking to a second level. This is where they don't just tell you what to think about, but begin to influence how you think about it. The spotlight doesn't just illuminate, it also casts specific shadows. This is called framing. Think about a new economic policy. Is the story framed around job creation and opportunity, using words like growth and innovation? Or is it framed around corporate greed and inequality, using words like loopholes and the 1%? The facts may be identical, but the frame preloads your emotional and cognitive response. You're not just given a topic, you're given a lens through which to view it. This process is so pervasive, it becomes the invisible architecture of public opinion. It builds the room of your thoughts, then lets you arrange the furniture inside. You believe your opinions are your own, forged by reason, but you're often operating within walls you never saw being built. The most effective control isn't a command. It's a suggestion, a quiet whisper that simply tells you where to look. And once you're looking, it's incredibly difficult to see anything else. Mimetic warfare. It's the battle for your mind, fought not with bullets and bombs, but with ideas disguised as entertainment. It's the art of hijacking culture itself to control a narrative. Think of an idea as a virus. A simple virus, like the common cold, just wants to replicate. But a weaponized virus is designed with a purpose. That's the difference with a meme in this context. It's not just a funny cat picture, it's an ideological payload wrapped in a catchy, easily shareable package. It's a Trojan horse that you willingly invite into your digital city walls. It arrives on your screen as a joke, a viral video, or a hashtag, and you let it in because it's amusing or relatable. But inside, it carries a very specific payload: a political bias, a seed of distrust, a subtle shift in your perception of reality. The true power of mimetic warfare is that it bypasses your critical thinking. You don't analyze a joke the same way you analyze a news article. You absorb it, you share it, and with every share, you become an unwitting soldier in a war you didn't even know was being waged. It works by repetition and emotional resonance. You see the same format, the same symbol, the same slogan over and over, used by people you identify with. It starts to feel like common sense and established truth. This isn't a theoretical concept. Nation states and political groups actively use these tactics to destabilize opponents, polarize populations, and shape public opinion. They create an in-group and an out-group using simple, powerful symbols. They can make a fringe idea seem mainstream or a complex issue seem laughably simple. It's a form of psychological gravity, slowly and almost imperceptibly pulling the consensus of a population in a desired direction. So, the next time you scroll through your feed and see a politically charged image macro or a viral slogan, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what idea is hiding inside the humor? What belief is it trying to install? Because in the 21st century, the front line is in your pocket, and the most effective combatant doesn't even realize they're fighting. They just think they're sharing a funny picture. Algorithmic persuasion. Imagine a salesperson who knows every song you've skipped, every article you've read halfway, and every secret fear you've typed into a search bar at 3 a.m. This salesperson never sleeps, never gets tired, and works for free. Its only goal is to learn you better than you know yourself. It doesn't just know what you like, it knows what you will like, and more importantly, it knows the precise sequence of stimuli needed to guide you from casual interest to absolute conviction, whether that's buying a product or adopting an ideology. This isn't just about targeted ads for shoes after you've browsed a shoe website. That's a surface level tactic. We're deeper in the iceberg now. Algorithmic persuasion is the invisible architecture of your digital life. It's the TikTok feed that seems to read your soul. It's the YouTube rabbit hole that starts with a video on baking bread and ends, 4 hours later, with you questioning the nature of reality. It's the subtle reordering of your newsfeed to either enrage you or soothe you, depending on which emotional state makes you more likely to stay online. Think of it as a digital ghost in the machine, a master storyteller, but the story is your own reality, curated just for you. Every click, every hover, every share is a breadcrumb. You're feeding a system that is constantly running millions of A/B tests on your psyche to find the perfect narrative. It learns that showing you 3 positive videos about a political idea, followed by one that frames the opposition as ridiculous, is infinitely more persuasive than just showing you one. It's not predicting your path, it's paving it, one piece of content at a time, making each step feel like your own free choice. This process bypasses your rational mind and speaks directly to your instincts. It masterfully exploits our deepest cognitive biases. It creates overwhelming social proof by showing you what's trending, making you feel part of an inevitable consensus. It builds a powerful consistency trap, where agreeing with one small idea makes it psychologically easier to agree with the next, slightly more extreme one. The algorithm doesn't argue with you, it simply surrounds you. It constructs a seamless filter bubble that feels less like a personalized feed and more like the objective, undeniable truth. The world it shows you is so compelling, so validating, that you forget it's a world built specifically to persuade you. This isn't a bug, it's the core feature of the modern attention economy. The algorithm has evolved beyond a simple recommendation engine. It is now a silent, ever-present narrator of your life, and its only directive is to write the next chapter for you, ensuring you never want to put the book down. Incepted narratives. Imagine a memory that isn't yours. A belief that was never truly formed by you but was carefully placed there, like a single seed in the fertile soil of your subconscious. This isn't just about being lied to. A lie is a direct assault on the truth. An incepted narrative is far more elegant and far more dangerous. It's a complete story, a framework for understanding a piece of the world that is subtly offered to you until you adopt it as your own. The goal isn't to make you believe a false fact, it's to make you inhabit a new reality. The most effective ones don't feel like they were told for you, they feel like they were discovered by you. Think of it like this. A manipulator doesn't hand you a finished puzzle and say, "This is the picture." Instead, they give you a handful of emotionally charged puzzle pieces and a compelling story about what the final picture might be. Your own mind, eager to make sense of things, does the rest of the work. You connect the dots, you fill in the gaps, and you build the very narrative they wanted you to build. And because you did the building, the final picture feels like your own personal revelation. This is the engine of modern marketing and political propaganda. You aren't just buying a car, you're buying into the narrative of freedom, adventure, and success. You aren't just supporting a policy, you're joining a story about heroes fighting villains, about protecting a cherished way of life. These narratives bypass your logical defenses because they don't argue with you. They invite you to be the hero of a story that feels true on a gut level. The truly insidious part? Once that seed of a story takes root, it intertwines with your actual memories and beliefs. It starts to color your perceptions. You begin to seek out information that confirms the narrative and dismiss anything that contradicts it. You become its most passionate defender, not because you were brainwashed, but because you believe, with every fiber of your being, that this story is a truth you uncovered. You're no longer just a listener to the story, you are its author, its protector, and its proof. The most powerful prison isn't one with walls, but one built from a story you mistakenly believe you wrote yourself. Semantic bleaching. Imagine a word is a brand new, vibrantly colored t-shirt with a sharp, specific design. Now, imagine washing that shirt 1,000 times. The color fades, the design blurs, the fabric thins. That's semantic bleaching. It's the process where a word's intense, specific meaning is slowly washed out through overuse, until it becomes a pale, generic version of its former self. Take the word awesome. It once meant something that truly inspires awe, a divine storm, a terrifying beast, something that would make you tremble. It had weight. It had power. Today, you might say your lunch was awesome. The word hasn't just changed, it has been fundamentally weakened, its potency bleached away by mundane repetition. This isn't just a quirky feature of language, it's a subtle landscape for manipulation. Think about the word literally. Its entire purpose was to be an anchor to reality, to say, "No, I am not exaggerating." But now, I literally died laughing. My head literally exploded. By using it as a generic intensifier, the speaker is subtly trying to inflate the emotional reality of their story, borrowing the authority of a word while ignoring its meaning. It's a tiny, almost harmless lie, a small crack in the foundation of shared understanding designed to make you feel what they want you to feel. But the bleaching can be more insidious. Consider a word like gaslighting. It has a very specific and severe psychological definition, a deliberate, sustained campaign to make someone question their own sanity. But as the word has entered the mainstream, it's been bleached. Now, you'll see it used to describe someone simply disagreeing with you or getting an argument wrong. This dilution is dangerous. It takes a term meant to identify a serious form of abuse and weakens it, making it harder for real victims to describe their experience without sounding like they're just being dramatic. The abuser's tool is blunted as a descriptor, providing them with a fog of ambiguity to hide in. Semantic bleaching is the slow, quiet erosion of meaning. It's not a grand conspiracy, but a linguistic drift that manipulates our perception of intensity and severity. It's how the sharpest tools in our language are quietly turned into blunt instruments, one casual misuse at a time, until we can no longer feel their original edge. Epistemic bubbles versus echo chambers. At first glance, they sound the same. Both trap you in a limited worldview. But the mechanisms are critically different, and one is far more sinister than the other. Think of an epistemic bubble as a cozy, curated library. You walk in, and all the books seem to confirm what you already believe. It feels comprehensive, it feels right. But what you don't realize is that a well-meaning but biased librarian has quietly removed every single book that might challenge you. You're not being lied to, you're just being sheltered. Your worldview is shaped by omission. The bubble is often accidental. You follow people like you, algorithms learn what you like, and slowly, without any grand conspiracy, your information diet narrows. The walls are made of silence. And because of that, they're brittle. A single encounter with a credible opposing argument, One of those missing books is often all it takes for the entire bubble to pop. Now, an echo chamber is not a library. This is a fortress. Inside the fortress, familiar ideas don't just exist, they echo, amplified and distorted until they become the only truth. But the real mechanism of control isn't the echo, it's the gatekeepers. They stand at the walls, and they don't just block outside information, they actively poison the well. They don't just tell you the books outside are wrong, they tell you the authors are evil, the librarians are corrupt, and the paper they're printed on is poison. The goal isn't just to keep you from hearing other ideas, it's to make you distrust the very people who hold them. This is the terrifying distinction. An epistemic bubble works by manipulating what you know. An echo chamber works by manipulating who you trust. In a bubble, you're ignorant of other views. In a chamber, you're taught that other views are a malicious attack. Escaping a bubble is an intellectual act. You simply need to be exposed to new data. But escaping an echo chamber, that's a form of social and emotional treason. You have to defy the gatekeepers, question your allies, and risk being exiled from the very community that gives you your sense of identity. It requires you to rebuild your fundamental model of trust from the ground up. So, as you drift off, consider the architecture of your own mind. Are you living in a quiet library with a few missing sections? Or can you hear the guards on the walls telling you who to fear? Ideological subversion. Think of it not as a battle fought with armies, but as a virus that infects a society's mind. It's a patient, insidious process of changing your perception of reality so completely that you no longer recognize the truth, even when it's staring you in the face. This isn't about a sudden coup, it's about making a nation rot from the inside out over decades, until the entire structure is ready to collapse at the slightest push. The process, often called active measures, has 4 distinct stages. The first, and longest, is demoralization. This takes 15 to 20 years, the time it takes to educate one generation. The goal here is to attack the very pillars of a country: its religion, its education system, its media, its culture. You slowly replace proven, foundational principles with half-baked, contradictory ideologies. You teach students what to think, not how to think. You make entertainment distracting and degenerate, not uplifting. After a generation of this slow drip poison, you have a population that can't tell right from wrong, or an enemy from a friend. They are demoralized. Next comes destabilization. This is much faster, maybe 2 to 5 years. Now that the people are confused and their values are scrambled, you target the machinery of the nation itself. You create chaos in the economy, in foreign policy, in the defense systems. You radicalize human relations, pitting citizen against citizen in struggles over power and privilege. The society becomes an endless battlefield of grievances. The foundation, already eaten away by the termites of demoralization, begins to tremble. People feel powerless, anxious, and desperate for a savior, anyone who promises to fix the chaos. This leads to the third stage. See? Crisis? It can be terrifyingly brief, perhaps as short as 6 weeks. A cataclysmic event pushes the destabilized society over the edge. It could be a violent revolution, an economic collapse, or a foreign intervention. With the nation on its knees, a savior steps in, often the very agent of the subversion, offering a simple, radical solution. And, in their desperation, the people will accept it. They will trade their freedom for the promise of security. Finally, there is normalization. This is the most chilling part. The new authoritarian reality becomes permanent. The subversion is complete. The new ideology is enforced, dissent is crushed, and the promises of a utopia are forgotten. The people who were screaming for change are the first to be silenced by it. And for the next generation born into this new system, it's not tyranny, it's just normal. The virus has finished its work. The host is no longer recognizable. Ontological manipulation. Imagine you could edit the source code of reality itself, not with a computer, but with an idea. This is the art of changing the world by fundamentally altering what people believe is real or even possible within it. It's not about simply tricking you, it's about rewriting the very rules of the game you don't even know you're playing. The most common example is something you use every day: money. That piece of paper in your wallet or the glowing number on your screen has zero inherent value. It's fiber and light. But because we, as a collective, have agreed to believe in its power, it can build cities and topple nations. We have willed its meaning into existence. This shared fiction has become a concrete, physical force. That is a simple, baked in form of ontological manipulation. A true reality hacker takes this principle to the extreme. They don't try to break the laws of physics, they exploit the bugs in social consciousness. And the biggest bug is our absolute reliance on shared stories to make sense of the world. A manipulator can introduce a new narrative, a kind of conceptual viruses that, if it goes viral, can overwrite the entire operating system of a culture. Suddenly, ideas that were once absurd become common sense. New enemies can be conjured from thin air, new social hierarchies can be forged, and entire populations can be mobilized toward a goal that didn't even exist a generation before. This isn't science fiction. Think of the divine right of kings. For centuries, this idea wasn't just a political theory. It was perceived as a fundamental law of the universe. To challenge the king was to challenge God and reality itself. The idea structured everything. More recently, consider the concept of a personal brand. A few decades ago, it didn't exist. Now, it's a powerful framework that shapes how millions of people present themselves, find work, and measure their own value. A new layer of reality was coded, and we all downloaded the patch. Ultimately, ontological manipulation is gaslighting on a societal scale. It's the subtle, constant whisper that asks, "Are you sure the world really works the way you think it does?" It reminds you that the most effective prison isn't one with physical bars. It's one where the walls are built from the limits of your own imagination, walls you can't see because someone else decided what was real for you,